Izbel Diestores. He's a member of the critical Cuban observatory.
Well, a somber day across Cuba today as the sun rises over Havana's horizon. I imagine it's rising over other horizons across this island nation. A somber day because the ashes of the fallen hero, Fidel Castro, will be interred in the second city of Santiago, about 1,700 kilometers away from where we are. I am joined now by a local, Izbel Diestores. He's a member of the critical Cuban observatory. He's also an author. He's a poetry professor. Just to talk about the significance of this moment. Izbel, thanks. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Of course, the focus in Santiago, we've seen an outpouring of grief. We've seen an outpouring of emotion across this country as the funeral procession has made its way down to the southeast of Santiago. Speak about the significance of this day for Cubans, if you will.
Yes, I think it's a quite important day for us. There are, a lot of sides here in this history, but the truth is that Fidel Castro is, this kind of figure that you will never forget. So it really made like a huge changes here in the island, for the poor people. I remember my grandparents. They just loved him, and because he really changed their lives. They were very poor, and they give them education, they give them health care, and they have like a new life and a new meaning for their life. So it's very important, this figure, Fidel Castro. And of course, during all these years of the revolution, it's been like, all the things, all the changes. You never know what to expect next time, because it was like a very moved situation, society here during this year, during this year, these decades. And of course, everybody wondered what would happen if Fidel is not here. But the truth is that, he's been like absent in the media,
Right. I mean, since 2006,
yes,
he stepped away, and
so the transition has been like slow. It's not like sometimes people think that Fidel is Naxis, where everything is, but now it just happened very,
naturally in a way. I mean. You talk about how he, was a very important figure, but you also talk about the fact that there were different views here about Fidel Castro. There are different views about Fidel Castro, despite how the rest of the world, particularly Africa and the developing world, feels about him. Speak about some of these different views that we see on the ground here in Cuba.
Yes, of course. All these changes came together with a different understanding of how to organize a society. So we lose some of our achievements before the revolution, because we have a very interesting constitution. 1940 we had a very good constitution that accepted every different way of thinking, so you didn't have to be like a member, a part of the system, and you can perform, you can act, you can speak. And since the revolution, because of this pressure of the United States and all this the international situation against Cuba, we need to build like a shelter. And to live in there, and it was not good for everybody. A lot of people have different thoughts. A lot of people have, for example, a different view of what socialism is, and it was not allowed for them to speak up, to organize themselves, to have their independent parties, that kind of.
Despite those freedoms, though, in the 1940s that you talk about before the revolution, Cuba was very much an unequal society.
It was, definitely, yes.
Is it a more equal society today?
Well, I think we're in the process to go back to that situation, because during the 60s and the 70s, even the 80s, yes, it was this kind of equalitarian society. So we were all poor, but we were happy because we were equal. We understand that we were not a rich country.
And that's beginning to change
now. That's beginning to change, and you can see the different social differences right now. And people don't like that. People is hurt because of that. And they see where the privileges are. And most of the people are not, do not receive those privileges.
I mean, let's give South Africans a bit of a taste. I mean, what's an average salary in Cuba?
Well, my salary, for instance, is $13 1 month.
1-3.
Yes, 1-3.
And how far does that get you in the month?
That I could use that for about 1 week or a half. 1 week and a half.
And then what happens?
And then you need to create. You need to, in Spanish we say like inventar.
You have to be creative.
To be creative. Yes. Of course, a lot of people receive money from other countries. You know, there is a huge amount of Cubans that live abroad, and they keep sending money for their families here to survive. And at the same time, there is kind of corruption here, like in every level. And sometimes it's not that big. It could be a small kind of corruption, but people is trying to get money or materials or influence whatever they work, wherever they are, and that's how you survive here in
Let me ask you one final question. What does Cuba look like in 10 years from now?
I think Cuba will become like a regular country in the world. It's I think regular. Perhaps not that regular, but pretty much like, you know, that those countries in Asia, like China or Vietnam, where you have like a capitalist economy, but at the same time you have a single party and you have this kind of a strong state directing everything.
Izbel Diestores speaking to us about how Cuba will be a regular country but with an irregular heartbeat. Let's hand it back to Johannesburg.